You know, Africa is still very much in the news, and the thing here is that in Chad at the moment, a whole lot is happening as borders are being closed. Now, but security across the Sahel, the Maghreb, Chad, and even Nigeria is our focus today. We'll be bringing experts to see the implication of what this will mean, especially for countries like Niger and even Nigeria. Welcome to VSA. I'm Sulaiman. You know, Idriss Deby, he didn't just die, he was killed. That is actually making all the difference in what we're looking at the moment. Chad, a nation of 16 million people, has been thrown into disarray after its president of 30 years was killed by rebels. Deby's death has raised questions as to the security of leaders on the continent, with nations expected to tighten the grip on their leaderships. Now, long-term leaderships have left Africa insecure and dangerous, with governments having to battle forces who show discontent with the excessive number of years in power. Now, the people ultimately bear the brunt, and now there is fear for the economic, security and political future of the country, as well as the sub-region. Well, joining me to look at developing, stories from Chad and across the Sahel and Maghreb is Ferdinand Lindsay, and of course he's the director of Concordia Journal, and of course Onai Homo, who's a security consultant. Pretty much later, Temitope Olodo will join me on the show. Gentlemen, many thanks for joining me.
Hello.
Well, good to see you both. Let me start with you, Ferdinand. These are indeed hard times for the Sahel region, considering the roles played by the late Deby in that region. How will his killing affect security in the Sahel as well as the Lake Chad Basin regions?
Well, undoubtedly, it's just going to increase the insecurity that has persisted in the area for as long as we can remember. It is understood that Idriss Deby has been the strong man in the area. He's been in power for 30 good years. And for me, that is as much a subject that impresses me as it does depress me. Because obviously for him to have managed to stay in as long as he has done, he would have had to do lots of things that you don't expect leaders to do. The most important thing is that the area, the Sahel area, the Nigeria, Cameroon, and parts of Libya, where many of the soldiers that he has been in control of have tended to decamp to. That whole area is insecure. And I'm sorry to note that Nigeria is part of the equation next to Boko Haram. But that whole area is insecure. And he has been regarded as the strong man who has kept things more or less ticking along as events develop. The French have regarded him as a friend. Why he's a friend of the French, I have no idea. But the French have regarded him as a friend of theirs. They have a huge base in N'Djamena, their capital. And as sure as night follows day, we know that they are not there because it's good for either Chad or for Africa. It's obviously good for France. So not only do we need to be concerned as West Africans, especially those who are living close by, but the French will also be concerned because they've lost a steady ally at the moment. And I'm not sure what they're going to be doing to replace that. In the meantime, there's going to be lots more turmoil in the area, and I suspect that everybody's going to have to be a little more concerned than they were yesterday before we had the news.
Well, no doubt. Ferdinand, I'll come back to you, especially more so. Let's try as much as possible to see some of those, things that has made his death or his stay in office. You used the word cause you to be depressed. I want us to speak more on that. But again, let me come to on. Good to see you again. And of course, not so good a time for the continent because I recall you had written, you had spoken about security around that axis. Quickly here, how does it affect the battle against insurgency as well as terrorism in that region, more so Nigeria especially?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Sulai, for having me on your program. Well, we are in for a tough ride. We're going to be in for a bit of a bumpy ride in terms of security because Mr. Deby had proven himself to be quite a formidable force in terms of combating terrorism, insurgency, jihad in the whole Sahelian region. So he was a very prominent voice, was a prominent actor, and his style, which of course is now complicit in his death, was also very interesting because this was one president who led from the front, who went to the battlefield and commanded the troops in battle. We saw that in July last year when he rooted out Boko Haram fighters from the Chadian side of Lake Chad. And this was after he had been provoked by the attack in Boma, where they killed about 100 Chadian soldiers. And he said that this was the single largest slaughter of Chadian troops. So I think what we see happening here is that we're going to have quite a bit of issues in terms of securing the area, because the people who are there right now, they do not know, they may not be able to, I mean, yes, his generals are there, but generals without leadership or without competent leadership is a problem. And now there's an issue of democracy in the area, but I'm not going to get into that. I'll let the political scientists deal with that. But my concern with the assassination, I think that's really what it is. The assassination of Mr. Deby by the FARC jihadists or FARC rebels from Libya is that the whole region is going to get even more destabilized. We are at a point right now where we are seeing an increase in the march of the terrorists in the Sahel, and where we are talking about how we're going to contend with that. And recently, Mr. Deby was in Abuja to consult with President Buhari, and who had asked him to increase the fight, increase the impetus of the fight against Boko Haram in Nigeria's northeast, which is to their southwest. So I think with him being gone and with him being such a central figure in the fight against jihadists and insurgents and terrorists, I think we are going to have more difficulty in bringing Boko Haramism under control in the northeast. Now, remember, MNJTF is headquartered in N'Djamena, and Mr. Deby has been been quite a big part of all of this, and we are going to really miss him, and we are going to go in for a tough time.
Well, no doubt the multinational joint task force has lost more like its commander, so to speak now. But let me come quickly to Ferdinand. You said something about what has depressed you. And listening to Honor, he said he wouldn't want to go into the political aspect. I'm excited that you're here because For the Concordia, I know they've been keeping watch on happenings around that axis. Tell us, even though his son has emerged with the constitution being dismissed, this may really foment more trouble as the people will kick. Keep in mind, Ferdinand, this is also one of the key reasons why some of his most trusted allies left him to join the rebels. So what do we hope to see? Do you think the rebels have a chance of usurping the interim Chadian government?
I'm afraid I'm not as sanguine about that as you appear to be. There have been some rumors that his son has had a hand in what has occurred to his father. I have no concrete evidence to support that. But the fact that the constitution has been suspended in Chad on the basis of this rather sad occurrence is troubling to me, because it shouldn't have. There is a constitution there. The natural leader that should have come back into position after the death of Mr. Deby should have been the Parliament's what's his name?
The Prime Minister, yes.
The woman in charge of the Speaker of the Parliament. So that's the person who should have taken over. And with the fact that an election had recently been held, and apparently the deceased had won by 80%, which is rather strange. But anyway, at least there was a semblance of democratic activity going on there. Now, this is a suspension and reversal to the military rule that has dogged much of Africa for far too long. Under normal circumstances, a leader should stay in political office no more than 8 to 10 years. After that, there is nothing really that you can do that you haven't been able to think of to do. So when you find that somebody has been in power for 30 years, you know there's something wrong. And I'm afraid we will soon be finding out that the 30 years that this gentleman has spent in office has done little to develop the country in terms of civil activity and so on. So all we're going to be faced with is another round of incendiary activity, people going to fighting against each other, wars breaking out here and there. The whole climate is going to change to the benefit of the insurgents all over the place, especially Boko Haram.
Let me bring in Honor here. Days before Deby's killing, if you recall, the American and French governments asked their citizens to leave that country. As a security expert, what does this mean?
Thank you very much. Well, the advanced democracies, not just advanced democracies, it's supposed to be everybody, even in Nigeria. They have intelligence capabilities which enables them learn the intentions of the bad guys, or even learn the capabilities of the bad guys, learn whether they are growing in strength, growing in numbers, growing in weaponry, and perhaps even growing in command and control. So that is a function of intelligence. The intelligence they are able to gather, be it satellite intelligence, be it human intelligence, be it even open source intelligence, or even any other type of intelligence, geospatial, it will enable them know what is going on. So what I'm trying to say is that the Americans apparently already saw that from an intelligence point of view, of course, that the capability of the bad guys was increasing, and that they were becoming more of a threat to the general populace, not just the government in power, which is why they would issue such a warning. We call that in intelligence business, intentions and warnings, I and W. So you state the intentions of the bad guys and you issue warnings on what to do. So that recommendation or that directive or perhaps even guidance that American citizens should leave from Chad was for that purpose, to issue an I and W. But having said that, I think that also gives me a cause for concern, because if the Americans issued an I and W recently that their citizens should leave the country, and now the same rebels, FARC, have succeeded in assassinating the president with or without collusion from his inner cabinet, then it worries me. It appears that something is really wrong, much more than we know. So are we saying, because remember, back when Hissène Habré was president, when Idriss Deby was his main henchman, Idriss Deby went out and came back and fought him and overthrew him in 1990. Now, the FARC rebels, are they trying to run the same play that Idriss Deby ran back in 90 that made him president? So perhaps the Americans know more about that, but they haven't told us. So I don't know. I don't have the intelligence. But I know that if they are able to assassinate the president of the country, it is a problem. But now let me quickly sound a warning of my own, if you may, Solai, to our Nigerian executives who are fond of rushing to the scene of to the war front, particularly in the Northeast. We have a case where the governor of Borno State unfortunately likes to rush into the place. I know he appears to be imbued with passion. He's passionate, his heart is in it. He wants to work for his people, but it's also dangerous, because when the commander-in-chief or when a political executive goes into a field of battle, a theater of battle, you become the issue, because the theater commander is now worrying about your security and safety rather than on his offensive or defensive operations. So you take away from the fight. And now, if you go there and they know, because, for example, we now know, even from the Rat of Boma, that's the one of July last year, when he routed Boko Haram from the Chadian side of Chad, of Lake Chad, and I believe they are back now, of course, also. When he did that, he was personally present in the field of battle. Now, in that case, they prevailed, and they were able to give a quick notice to Boko Haram. But the FARC rebel, they are a different case, because they are right there in Libya. They have access to a lot of arms, and a lot of his own top guys went to join the FARC people, which means his routines were known and they could be predicted with a great degree of accuracy. And that is the result you are seeing today.
Honor, thank you so much for that, because we also said that much about Governor Zulum of Borno State. Quickly here, Ferdinand, listening to Honor, who's also reminded us of the FARC rebels base. Keep in mind, Deby was also trained in Libya. But yes, but again, you looking at what, again, those who said he's your friend, you're talking about the French now. Recall that the French forces in 2019 had helped keep Deby on seat as they faced the FARC rebels. Now, with his death now, Ferdinand, are there possibilities of a renegotiation with his son, or with the withdrawal of the French troops?
This is really quite difficult, because one of the issues that relate to Chad, so there's always been internecine fighting, especially between the Zagawa clan, of which Deby was a member, and it is this rivalry that apparently has informed the impression that he even had some difficulties with his own son. And for me, it's the strangest thing to see a 37-year-old four-star general take over the reins of government in spite of the Constitution, in spite of all the other institutions that should be in place. So I see what's happening now with his son taking over as a new dimension in what's going to happen there. And it means that the French are going to have somebody else rather than the interests that they've developed over the period of Deby's rule, because he's obviously not been in a position to make arrangements with the French in the first place. But now that he's apparently in charge, they're going to have to talk to him, and they're going to have to find out what it is that he wants. And if ultimately he wants them to remove their base from N'Djamena for whatever reason, that's what they're going to have to do. But I suspect that the French, as they have always done, will find a way of accommodating themselves with this chap as well. And the cycle will continue. Another soldier will come in, sit there for another 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And nothing changes in Africa, I'm afraid.
Well, before I go back to Honor, let me stay with you, Ferdinand, because recall you did say something about the length of stay in office, which you did say, wasn't actually necessary. But again, I think what many should also know is that Chad has one of the worst economies in Africa. Even after 3 decades of Deby's rule. How will this situation further impact the economy?
Rather gravely, I'm afraid, because obviously with the instability, it's going to affect the oil that they have. I think they discovered oil in 2003 and laid some pipelines and so on. But every time there are all of these incursions, it means that supplies to markets become difficult. And obviously now with the new situation, it's going to just become even more difficult. Meantime, the waters of Lake Chad are drying up. The areas where the locals used to subsist on fishing and so on, they've all gone dry. They've all dried up. So I really have very little sympathy for what's going on in terms of their economy. It's going to get tougher than it ever was. And it's not as if it was a good economy before this.
Yeah, Honor, you know, once a country gets into some economic quagmire, you're likely to see, you know, movement of people. As it stands at the moment, we've started witnessing exodus of people leaving Chad to the other part of Cameroon. Do you think this will ultimately, you know, see such a movement towards Nigeria, as well as even people with small and light weapons, now that the FACT rebels in Libya are presently in Chad?
Well, sir, I wouldn't say that they are in charge yet.
No, I'm talking about they are in Chad. Chad as a country.
Oh, in Chad. Okay, yeah. Thank you, Salai. Yes, they are in Chad. Indeed, they are in Chad, which is why the president had to go to the front line to try to battle them and push them out. But let's deconstruct the question. You have too many things in there. Number one, migration or out migration from Chad. Yes, we are going to see that. There's going to be, I mean, I have already said on this program that there's going to be an increase in violence in Chad. And that violence, of course, is going to create migration. People are going to run away from it. They're going to run south. South will be straight across Boko Haram territory into Borno State, not minding that we have a huge IDP problem there right now. And well, they're going to, some will go to Cameroon, that area has a lot of problems too, even from Boko Haram, and then from their own internal security problems in that country. Some might go to Niger because they might have kinsmen to their west, to Niger, certainly. Some will go into Darfur, again, that is southern Sudan, you know, and so they're going to disperse in many directions. But by and large, Nigeria has the greatest attraction for many of them because of its perceived oil wealth and the perceived, and of course, the porosity also of the border. So it's going to be easier for these, I'm talking about the good guys now, not the bad guys, for the citizens fleeing conflict, being forced to flee from conflict, coming down into Nigeria. So we should brace up. This is what we don't do. And I'm happy, Sulai, you are asking these hard questions now ahead of time. We should brace up for things like this. I mean, we see it. You see, you don't need a crystal ball. You don't need Babalawo to tell you what is going on. You just see it. You look at the indicators. That's what we call them in intelligence. Look at the indicators and you know what is going to trend up behind that because it's logical. And there are tools. We have tools for predicting this is structural analytical tools, estimative tools for forecasting what is going to happen. So I don't know why these things are not used in our governance. But having said that, I think we're going to see migration by population from that, particularly that tribe. I've forgotten the name of the tribe that lives around the Lake Chad Basin. They are going to come in. Now, aside from that, we're going to see new influx of weapons too, because you know how it is when the conflict pushes down from Libya into Chad, then they're going to find new routes of running the weapons into Nigeria because Nigeria is a destination for small arms and light weapons, even heavy arms too, not just small arms and light weapons, heavy arms. They come into Nigeria. So we're going to see some of that, quite a bit of that coming in to join the 350 million small arms and light weapons that are floating around the country anyway, as it were, unfortunately. So that's going to increase the capability of the bad guys who want to harm Nigerians, the insurgents, the bandits, the militias that are now dotting the country, who want to do that. So that's what the kind of thing we're going to see. But I'm sorry to say the bad news is we're going to see a lot of conflict in the short term.
Well, two categories of, persons moving into these countries you have just raised on. Let me come to you quickly here, Ferdinand. Looking at what is happening, is there a possibility that, because as it stands now, Ferdinand, the AU has been silent? No one is saying anything about a constitution that has been suspended. Is it given that there's some kind of subtle endorsement to what is playing out in Chad at the moment?
Well, I hope it's not. I hope it's just AU playing its usual diplomacy. But like you said, it's very strange that we haven't had a word from them. Know that they will probably give the new military junta a few moments to get their act together before they start complaining. For me, I find it really rather strange that the AU has been silent, because the first thought that occurred to me was, why is the army taking over because the president has been shot? This is a civilian government. The fact that the president decided to go and exercise his martial prowess on the battlefield doesn't change anything except let us know that he comes from a military background and he was not very wise. Because if you've left the field, I mean, he's been in power for the past 30 years. He must be at least in his 60s or 70s. What he's doing on the battlefield, I have absolutely no idea. But the fact that the military took over government as soon as such a thing happened, and the AU has remained quiet, that is troubling. And it is something that they really need to pronounce on as quickly as possible so that we can quickly get rid of all these military adventurists in the midst of Africa. We don't need any soldiers dealing with the complex business of government. Government is extremely difficult, extremely complex. Soldiers are trained to fight and defend us. That's all they are required to do. They have no expertise in running countries. They have no expertise in running little companies, never mind countries. And the sooner we remove the notion of soldiers in government in Africa, the sooner Africa will begin to heal. Because if you look at much of our difficulties for the last, 50, 60 years, it's all because we started on political adventures, and as soon as we started, within 3 or 4 years, soldiers who had absolutely no training in anything decided to take over because somehow they had arrogated onto themselves the right to tell the rest of the population what to do. And it is not as if they haven't been around more or less forever. If you really think about it, for much of Africa's independent era, much of the running has been done by soldiers. So if there are problems right now, it's because the soldiers are not in the right places. They should not be in government.
Let me not do the back and forth. Let me close with Ferdinand before I come to Honor. Ferdinand, quickly, what should Nigeria be doing at this moment? Because just lately, there's been some, audacious incursion by Boko Haram into Damasak and a couple of other places in Borno State. What do you hope to see from the government of President Buhari?
Well, I'm hoping that Nigeria will do the right thing for once. Beef up its defenses and take the fight to these terrorists. Surely a country as rich and as powerful as Nigeria, with all the expertise that it has, it can handle these insurgents. It's been going on for too long. It's been 10, 15 years of Boko Haram? This is the time. This should be a catalyst for Nigeria to finally get its act together. All these wonderful generals that have been sitting around in Lagos and sitting around in all of the capital cities. Please, this is the time for them to do what they have been trained to do, protect the integrity of Nigeria. Where Nigeria goes, Africa goes. If Nigeria is not standing on its feet, Africa is not going anywhere. So it is not just up to Nigeria. This is for all of Africa. For as long as Nigeria languishes under the threat of Boko Haram, all the progress that Africa is making is tentative. So this is the time for Nigeria to get up and send the soldiers in finally to do what they have been trained to do.
And quickly, same question to you on a homo.
Yes, I agree with the gentleman quite eminently. The military under General Rabo and the other service chiefs should go out right now in a hunt for the enemy. We cannot play defense. Terrorism is a fight you fight in the offense. You can't play defense. You can't stay and say, let's wait for them to attack and we'll repel. There's nothing to repel. Go after them, fish them out. They are bad guys. And then, make an arrangement for them to meet their makers quickly. But the point here is we need to set up things that will strengthen the citizenry, strengthen the population against incessant attacks, because it's going to take some time to defeat them, obviously, to hunt them out. So we need to have force multiplication. We need force multipliers. We need communication means such that when people are under attack, they can call out their distress out. And we must have rapid means to get to sites where people are in distress, so that we can save our populations while we embark on a deliberate ground offensive, that is not ground, integrated offensive, ground and air offensive to take out the bad guys.
Well, it's a fine place for us to say many thanks for being such a nice company, Ferdinand Orleans, Lindsay, and Onai Homo, on this very, very disturbing development in Chad and across the Sahel. I hope to see you again both on Village Square Africa.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we'll take a moment where we'll come back. It will be my moment with Temitope Olodo on the same issue. Stay with us. What a moment here on Village Square Africa, and we continue our conversation looking at developments in Chad. Recall the Central African Republic has also in the past benefited from Chad security. Quite a number of things to look at here. Joining me now is Temitope Olodo, who is a preventive security expert. Good to see you, Temitope.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, looking at countries across the Sahel and the Maghreb, what reaction should we be expecting from those countries?
I think a lot of them should be very sad. There's no doubt that the Field Marshal Deby is a great man when it comes to military strategy. He's a man that leads from the front, which is something that you cannot actually say with regard to all the other countries surrounding him. But it's not only that, the French refer to him as a brave friend. And there's no doubt that this is not a plastic general. This is a guy that enjoys, what he does. He goes to the war front. He helped Nigeria in many ways, because Nigeria could have been overrun by Boko Haram, and he actually came out after them, and did what he needed to do. Of course, when you look at the way he died in what, he died in a way, he knows best. He died in military service. And that is what you expect, sometimes from a general. A general is meant to lead from the front, not from behind. And that's the reason why many countries will be really concerned. And I think we should be concerned. And we should put in place appropriate strategies to make sure that we're not overrun by those rebel groups in the Sahel, because we need to be clear that, before the death of Gaddafi, he was able to hold down some of these people, and he was saying that if he was not around, a lot of things will happen. And those political prophecies have come to pass. Here we are now with another one that is happening, and we need to find a way to ensure that these groups, these rebel groups are actually, encouraged to go in for democratic, to go into the democratic process rather than fighting, wars. The Africa need to learn how to go to the ballot and fight for their rights rather than going for arms. And that is not the right way to move a continent forward.
Temitope, you just raised a very important one here, and it has to do with you went back in time. You made mention of the late Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, and that brings to mind the role of the African Union. How can the African Union step in? Because at the moment, silence has been what the world has gotten from the Union.
It is very sad that African Union is not pulling their weight the way they should be. I believe the African Union should be more involved in Mali. African Union should be more involved in Libya, and they should be more involved in Chad as it is right now. They should be detecting what is happening and saying, okay, fair enough, if you, the military, want to stay there for 18 months in light of the fact that we know you have a serious, jihadist and rebel groups that could destabilize the country. So we allow you your 18 months, and after 18 months, there must be a democratic process. You found out that even France or America have not come out to really attack, to say no, they don't want that, because this is the only way you could hold the country together. And if we say if Nigeria sneezes, all the other countries will catch cold. If Chad should sneeze, a lot of countries will be affected. Let's be frank. Chad spends about 30 to 40% of their budget on military acquisition, military equipment. I don't think we even spend up to that. And there is an adage, within the security cycle, that you do not take an armored tank to fight a bush rat. With all the armored tanks they have, look at the way he died. If armored tanks could protect him, if all the planes and all these guns could protect him, he would have been protected. The gun that would have shot him or killed him, now just be an AK-47 or AK-49. So what are we saying? It shows that all this military equipment is not really the only thing that you need. You need proper strategy. You need to be able to have people that can go into the enemy's camp and go and get rid of them. That's what the Americans do. That is what developed countries do. And people that know their onions, that is what they do. You drop people from the sky, they go into that place and go and kill the commanders and those people and destabilize them. We don't do that. What we do is more of reactive attack, and that is not good. We hide behind our super camps, and even no super camp can save you from these guys when they come in their drones, and that is the challenge that we're having currently within the Sahel.
Let me bring you back, and this time I want you to put on your expert cap as a preventive expert, as well as also a protection expert. Was it a wise thing, even as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Chad, to have gone into that battle?
Most presidents will like to show that they are strong enough. They are not just called Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. They visit their troops to give them morale. He's gone a bit further by commanding from the war front, for the front line. That might be because the analysis of the group, facts, as they call them, was that they were being beaten back, and it was safe for the president to be there. His aide and his group would not have allowed him to go very close to the war front if they believe that his life is not safe. So I think it's just an error of judgment that happens. But I think there is need for leaders to go to the war front, talk to the soldiers on ground, and encourage them, motivate them, to show them that nowhere is invisible. We're talking is within Chad. It wasn't like he was going into another country. So if he can't even move around within his own country, then we have a problem. But we know that it was almost about 185 miles. Those guys were actually coming into the capital, and they had to beat them back. Over 300 were killed, and another 150 were arrested. So, or were captured. So they actually did a good job, and that was the same job they did when they came after 100 soldiers were killed. He went in and came, and they even actually came into Nigeria territory. They were coming into Nigeria territory. These are the kind of army that Nigerians would be very proud of. In fact, it was said that Nigeria army were hailing them. That is to show you how good they are. They know their onions. They know what they're doing. So it might not be wise that he's gone there, but I think it's an error of judgment. But that said, I think what should be happening now, and what will have happened if, for example, it was France that was overrun, you will have heard on news that the British government has called their Cobra, which means the intelligence group, all of them will come together and have a discussion about what is happening. I've not heard of anything happening in Nigeria. I've not heard of the service chief being called into Asu Rock to have a discussion. Okay, this has happened. What does it mean for the multinational task force? What does it mean for our border? What do we need to do? They've shut their border now. What will happen to our own border? Do we need to shut our border also against Chad? We've left it open. Nobody's having any discussion. You see, that is the kind of things that really get people like myself very, very angry, because there should be this discussion happening. And one tree cannot make a forest. You bring many people together. You bring the chief of army staff, the chief of air force. They come together and start giving their views. And the president will then give his opinion. Okay, based on what is happening, let's just be watchful. Let's keep our antenna, alert, so that if anything is happening, that indicates that these guys are coming into us, we know how to flush them. We've not moved any battalion. We've not moved any equipment towards that place facing Chad, to make sure that if anything happens, we are ready to battle it. Our air force are not ready to go on air.
Let me come in here quickly. Tami Talk, but the thing here is that information on how President Deby was killed is still very sketchy, to the extent that a lot of people have tried to fill in the gap. Now, going by information that the world has, which you already mentioned, that there was a very significant pushback of the rebel forces by the Chadian Defense Force. Is there any possibility that this could be an assassination from his own camp?
There's a lot of theories that are going out there. For me personally, I do not see how it will have been possible for the president, the commander-in-chief, to actually have been killed. And they're not talking of, they're even saying that only nine soldiers lost their life and 53 wounded, which means that those with that theory or that assertion that he might have been killed, maybe he was killed by friendly fire. It might not just be an assassination, it might just be a misfiring. But it is impossible for the president to die. It means that at least another 100 or 200 people should have even died. Is it that there's a sniper somewhere 200 miles away, 100 miles away that is shooting? No. So if they shot him, they will have shot his aide, his special aid, his DSS, our kind of DSS, his royal. So there is something there that is not really right with regard to that story. Because for you to get to a president, you have to have gone through a lot of people to get to him. Because it's not even if he goes to the war front, he still has a lot of protection around him. So he won't have just go down like that without a lot of casualties. So that is the reason why that story seems to be plausible, that it might have been an insider issue. But the Chadians will not want to admit to that, because that would destabilize the state and also destabilize the Sahel region. So it's better they keep it under wrap until they are able to stabilize the country and ensure that these rebels do not still advance into the capital.
Well, so long, you've already mentioned what Nigeria should be doing at this point in time. Let's see if we can close on this. Are there possible expectations from Chad after this debacle?
Yeah, it's just one general that is gone. Another general has emerged. His son has emerged. He's been well trained. He knows his onions. He knows what he's doing. I think what is necessary now is to support them. The African Union and France should really support them to help them manage the process. His father, after 6 years, in 1990, when he took over, 6 years, turned over to become a civilian president or took over. I hope it's not that he's planning also to go into the power. I think he should leave the power to other people. I think after stabilizing the country, he should leave, and then he will be well respected. Like his people they said his people admire him, they love him, and I think he should take examples from other countries around the world, like Nigeria, where Abdul Salam came in, managed the situation and handed it over to President Olusegun Obasanjo. That is what I will be expecting. And that is where Nigeria will play a significant role to ensure that it does not install itself as president, through dubious means.
Well, it's a fine place for us to leave it. Always a delight having you, Temitope Olodo. The Chadian story is one that will take some time to leave. And here on the square, we'll put you up to date as it progresses. We hope the situation in that country is arrested and the tension is settled. These are indeed tough times, just as we're looking at Nigeria, Nigeria, and other countries across the Sahel, ensure that their borders are pretty much looked and locked and keep the bad guys away. Once again, thank you for your time, Temitope. And of course, to you, my viewer, many thanks for being such a nice company. I'll be back again. See you.